Rory Mcilroy's got one of the best swings in the game. He's only about 5'9", 160, 170 pounds, and he absolutely bombs it. We're going to have a look at his swing today, see what you can learn from his swing, and see how he does certain things that are going to help your game. So on the left, we've got McIlroy. Down the line, on the right, we've got face on. Slightly different events. This on the left is in Dubai in 2023. This on the right is the US Open. Looks like it's 2022. So let's start off with posture. So McIlroy's got a very sort of neutral posture. A little bit of knee bend. Arms hang just in front of his shoulder joints. Nice, straight, neutral spine. Love that setup. From face on, we're going to see a nice neutral grip from Rory. Not overly strong like we'd see with a lot of players. Not overly weak. Got a little bit of foot flare, which I like. That foot flare allows him to work correctly around these hips. If we get too internal with the femur, i.e. this bone, and the feet are too inward, which a lot of amateurs do, that really restricts your ability to rotate through the hips. So take note of Rory's setup there and how he flares his feet out. So let's get rid of all these lines and let's see Rory take the club away. So we'll see Rory likes a really nice wide takeaway. You'll see more interesting things from actually face on, but you'll see that initial part of the takeaway. I mean, you can just about see it's a little trigger move. Watch that left knee. Watch how that left knee is going to move back. Watch. You see that little trigger move? Left knee moves back as he starts the backswing. Really interesting move that. Rory's hands will move a little bit out. Something he does work on. He's got this habit of moving his hands out and the club back behind him. This one, the hands move out, but he keeps that shaft nice and in front of his hands. His bad habit, his hands go out, club head whips behind, he gets a little bit flat, or sometimes he can get a little bit steep with that shaft and the club gets stuck behind him. So he's done a really nice job there of taking it away. If we look on face on, watch that knee again. So let's see from face on, let's watch that knee. So you just see subtly a little move back there as his hands move forward. What you'll also see from Rory from face on is watch this head move. Nicola's had a similar move where it just tilts a little bit. You see that? Subtle little move to the left. What that is going to enable him to do is get a little bit more turn through his mid-spine, his cervical spine, just by subtly rotating that head. Very subtle. But what you'll also see as well, you see it with great players, is this centre of mass, this pelvis will move a couple of inches. Another camera angle moves, but I can assure you on 3D it does this. You see, just see a little bit of bump to his trail side as he takes the club away. And then once he gets to about hip high, then he'll start rotating that pelvis back. So something you can take away from Rory's swing is that little bump at takeaway, those nice wide hands, and that little turn through his head. So let's, on the right, bring him back to halfway. He's not got a lot of hip turn there. You'll see he starts to increase it on the way back there. Just see how that left hip creeps forward. You'll see Rory got the club nice and set. There you go. Got a lot of wrist angle there, which keeps that shoulder, that right arm down, the scapula down, rather than getting it too elevated. So he gets that nice bit of wrist set there, loads the club nicely. You'll see a lot of people talk about playing and, I mean, it's pointing at the ball, but I'll be honest with you, you see like John Rahm's shaft planes here in the backswing, somebody like Justin Thomas is up here. There's a million ways to do it. I don't take particular much notice of what that's doing. It's more how we load in transition and how you match up to your swing. So Rory does a great job there. Admittedly, he's probably a little bit flatter than he'd like with his shoulder plane. Rory really works on trying to steepen that shoulder plane, because sometimes he does early extend a little bit and get that club a little bit offline for him. So he does admittedly work a lot on getting those shoulders steeper. You'll see some videos in the past of him working a club along the chest and really getting that shoulder plane steep. But let's bring him up to the top. You'll see he starts to steepen it a little bit now. A little bit there. And then compared to a lot of guys, we'd probably see that right arm. I mean, we'll take this up to the same spot as well. Compared to a lot of traditional sort of swings, we'll see that right arm's a little bit more out. Rory's talked in the past how he doesn't like that position, but what you'll see with guys who get a lot of rotation through the rib cage, so Rory really turns his rib cage at the top of the swing, you usually see this right arm just flare out a little bit more, just because that shoulder joint is further around his body here, so it just naturally puts that arm into that position. If we take it, you know, a couple of frames before, you'll see how that arm's in more of a sort of traditional position, less behind his body, but that is just because of how much rotation. If we look at Rory on 3D, he gets, I think, around 120 degrees of thorax rotation in the backswing, where your average on tour is probably about 90. So he's rotating maybe 30 degrees more than your average tour player, hence why that right arm looks a little bit more out behind him. Also with Rory, we'll notice a little bit of a throwback. He's got a little bit of a cup in his lead wrist. You can see that. Get rid of those lines. You'll just see how he's got that little cup, a little bit of angle in that lead wrist. Really popular at the minute to get more of a sort of bow, but McIlroy has a little bit of cup, works for him, and you'll see in transition how he then moves in. Can you see that? How that wrist is going to move more into a flex position. It's really subtle, but you pick it up on 3D, how that wrist is just moving towards a more flex position. Also to note, Rory at the top, he is a little bit across the line, but again, you see that with guys who get a big shoulder turn, that trail arm, gets behind them a little bit, club gets across the line. It works for him because he likes to hit a draw. Generally, guys that have it across the line will hit draws. So what we'll have a look at now is how that transition all works. So this is Rory's real key to power. One thing you'll see from face on is how, I talk about this a lot in my videos of tour players, is look, as he's going back, he's already starting down. So what we see on things like 3D is the center of that rib cage, the center of that pelvis will move down considerably. What that's doing is it's loading the ground, loading that lead foot to really push back off, and it creates a lot of power and speed. So watch how, if we look at that center of the thorax and the pelvis, watch how much they drive down initially. So that's what you don't really see with amateur golfers. You see a very level sort of motion in the downswing. Arguably a lot goes straight up in the air. So you'll see this big drive. Rory does it more than most on tour, but he has to. He's only, like, say, 5'9", 160, 170 pounds. He has to get that drive down. You'll see from here that little squat into it, but it's that rib cage and the pelvis really compressing into the ground. You can see how that rib cage is. Look at, if I draw a line in his buttons there, look how they drop in. It's not just the pelvis. It's not just a squat from the lower body that a lot of people talk about. It's also that rib cage dropping, creating lots of compressive force through the middle of the body. It's creating all those tissues, really loading through. And then what we'll see, Rory gets it, I'd say, a little bit behind himself more than other golfers, but Rory can do that because his hips move at such a rapid pace. When you look at Rory on 3D, those hips are moving around 720 degrees per second. You look at the average guy on tour, it's about 540 degrees per second. And you look at your average amateur, it's like 360 degrees per second. So Rory's hips are moving faster than a tour player, and they're moving like 3 times faster than the average amateur. It's a big difference. I mean, the difference between Rory and an average tour player, the way those hips moves, is the same distance between an average player and a tour player. So that's how much of a unicorn he is compared to your average guy on tour. You'll see from face on that compression through, and you can also see, look at the lead foot. If you look at the lead foot, you can see how that heel's coming off the ground. Now, it's not something he's doing in the backswing. It's something he's doing in the downswing because he is pushing through that lead toe. If you're at home, think about that lead big toe. That's what you use to jump off. So if you try and jump with your toes up, you won't be able to jump. So a lot of the force in the golf swing is created through that lead big toe. Rory's pushing down through that lead big toe. Let me get rid of those lines so you can actually see. Look at that lead foot, lead heel coming off the ground, pressing through that big toe. Slams down, creates a lot of lag here. As we come down, he'll hold that, keep that bend in the elbow, which you don't see a lot of amateurs doing. They straighten that right arm, lose the lag, keeping that there. What Rory does really well let me bring this down the line, is that Rory's going to really rotate through. A lot of guys wouldn't be able to get the club this far behind them in downswing. They just hit blocks, hit hooks. But what Rory does so well is he really rotates his chest. If you look at impact, look how much he's rotated his chest there. His chest is almost pointing out this way, whereas you'd see somebody like a Tiger, his chest is more down. It's still going to be open, but it's more down at impact. Rory's just got a tremendous rotary action. Sorry, just bring that back. There you go. Bring the face on to impact. You can see how the buttons are facing out. That belt buckle is also facing out. Just a great position. His head's a little bit behind the ball, creating an upward angle of attack. Sorry, just skip through. Creates that upward angle of attack, which gives him optimum launch characteristics that allow him to hit it so far. And what you'll also see is watch how he gets a little bit more knee flex in the downswing, then jumps. You see that? Look at that right knee. That's because he's pushed so hard in the ground that it just thrown back up. He straightens that leg out. What you'll see on 3D that was talked about when Rory came out on tour is that his hips actually rotate in the downswing and then they kick back. If anyone's seen the 3D with TPI, Rory does that primarily because he pushes so hard off the ground. What's happening is that leg straightens and it just kicks his hips back again. So he has almost a double hip turn. That's not what creates his speed in the swing. It's just a byproduct of how he's using the force down into the ground and pushing back up, which he has to do because he's only a small guy to compare to somebody like a Dustin or a Koepka. You know, he's not got the long levers like they do. And you'll see Rory has got a lovely release through the ball, it gets that path into out, a little bit of draw spin on that, which he loves to do with driver. That's why he hits it so far, because he's not one of the guys that fade it. Generally, the fading guys, the guys like Koepka or Dustin, they hit down and across it. So that creates a little bit more spin, keeps it in play. Whereas Rory, he's grown up little, small stature. So he has been used to getting those low spin draws, and that's just a byproduct of trying to keep up with his peers. As a kid, you see that a lot with juniors. Never try and get rid of that because it's a great way of developing speed. You'll see how open he is. Nice release. He starts to get through it. Keeps his head down for quite a while. Said in previous videos, I'd probably say that Rory's left eye dominant, just because you normally see that with guys who keep the head down quite a while. But you see now, just really rotates, extends through. And this is my favourite thing about Rory. He's going at it 120, 125 mile an hour. Look at that follow through. Look how he keeps his balance. You don't see that from a lot of guys. Even your sort of Adam Scott, who's really sort of elegant with his swing, when he goes after it, you do see a bit of a recoil. You don't see, look, just holds that holds that finish. I mean, I'll play him through in full speed and you can see the balance and that poise. Doesn't look like he's going at it that hard, but what it is because he drives down, and then from there everything's sort of done, and it's just all these little micro stretches in his body that create like an elastic band effect that really whip that club through. It's just a great action, and the combination of Rory working hard in the gym over the last 10-15 years have really enabled him to use that raw talent to get the club speed up. I mean, when Rory first came out on tour, there's some great TrackMan data from the Butch Harmon school in Dubai, and he's at about 110 clubhead speed. So that was 2008, 2010. He's gone up sort of 10-15 mile an hour. I think a lot of that is due to him getting in the gym and working really hard. Have a look at some of the pictures from 2008. He was quite a chubby, not really athletic kid. So he had the raw ingredients, but adding that a little bit of muscle, a little bit of explosive training has really enabled him to take his game to the next level. Awesome swing. I'm sure he's going to win more majors. Just a joy to watch.